All right, Ricky Flex. Jumping into initial reactions. What was your takeaways when you left, right? For your screening of Nosferatu?
So first things first, I thought everyone, this entire cast was good, right? I think there's some great performances. I don't think anyone was bad, all right? But immediately after my first reaction walking out, that ending, I was thinking about the ending, and I don't want to spoil anything, but it was just such an awkward last moment. It was, and I was just like, man, we're really. It's just like like a dead fish type of moment, and I was just like, oh, geez. And that was my initial reaction. Is that, and then overall, I didn't think anyone was bad. That was my initial reaction.
Yeah, so like this movie, when you're going in, you don't anticipate the you don't like 'cause I would describe this movie as a erotic horror movie. And you don't see many of those. And you get some like perverted scenes every once in a while in a Robert Eggers movie, but it seemed to be more prevalent than usual. And you kind of I got it from the first scene what we were gonna get, and it was when you had Lily Rose Depp, you see her talking or at least somehow communicating with her mind with Count Orlok, making this deal with the demon, deal with the devil, and basically selling her soul to him. And when she's being possessed, she starts to moan a little bit. And once I heard that, I said to myself, I see what's going to happen here. I know exactly what's happening. So when you go from that first scene, which I think was excellent too, and then you had like the glimpse at Count Orlok, what he's going to look like, the jump scare right at the get-go, immediately had you locked in. But then to have the ending that we got, and we'll just hold off on spoilers for a sec, to get that type of ending, I'm like, it kind of all makes sense. Like to me, I am okay with that ending. And the trap that's kind of set for Count Orlok, it kind of is not something traditional you'll see in a Dracula movie. This feels like Eggers making his presence known for his vampire film, but I knew it was coming. But I also wanted to say, because of like the erotic horror type of feel it has, I think the casting of Lily Rose Depp was excellent. It makes all too much sense. It I know I wasn't a big Lily Rose Depp fan from The Idol, but after seeing what this movie is and seeing the performance that she has, and she's beautiful, she can be sexy, she can sound sexy, but she also can be in peril. She's great physically when she's getting possessed. She checked a lot of boxes in this movie. I think a lot of times, I mean, not a lot, but every once in a while, you're like, okay, maybe that's a little bit too much, but she is being possessed by a demon. So I kind of get it. I think she was an excellent casting for this movie and did a good job.
Yeah, I told you to buy the stock when it was low. I told you buy the stock, and wow, it jumped up this weekend. Big jump this weekend. You're right. It was a perfect casting, and I agree with you that sometimes it maybe was a little too much. But then you're also watching a vampire movie and someone that's possessed by a demon, basically. So it's like, oh well, I guess it's not right. So for me, it worked. I think the non-demon scenes, the non like when she's normal, you could have more issues with, I would say. For me, I thought she was fine. But obviously the scenes when she's possessed, when she's uh, the erotic parts, like she's oh god, what's the word I'm looking for? Like turned on a little bit, like you're not like not in that way, but like you know what I mean. Um, those are like pretty insane non CGI moments.
She's being seduced. Like those
Yeah, yeah. So the physical acting in this movie by her, no CGI, is pretty impressive, man. And for someone that, again, her stock was pretty low, but the idol did show you stuff that would be like, oh, she could do any type of physical performance. She's very pretty, obviously. She's beautiful. She has those beady eyes. Like we talk about Nicholas Holt's blue eyes and the eyebrows. She just has those eyes, like similar to Anya Taylor-Joy, who's also rumored to be this character that for Eggers in this movie, but ended up being Lily Rose Depp. And I can see why they wanted Anya Taylor-Joy. But going back to Lily Rose Depp, it's just like she has the presence. She's compelling. She can do the physical role. And we've kind of seen that erratic behavior before, you know? So for me, like spot on by Eggers here and the casting director. And I know Lily Rose Depp doesn't have much coming up, but I think after this, I think she's going to get a lot more in the bank. And I'm hoping not just horror movies, because that would be an easy career, easy moneymaker for her, but maybe try to do something more less physical in the near term to kind of expand your horizons, your acting ability.
It was just something that only Robert Eggers is going to make a period piece, and people are going to dress like in the way that they are 1830s Europe, and then have such a strong sexual presence in the movie. I'm like, Lily Rose Depp is pulling this off, and I don't think any woman in the history of the 1830s was acting like she was in this movie in certain moments, for a multitude of different reasons. But overall, I think it's a huge stock up for her, because you look at this cast, she's probably the strongest performer or doing the most. When you look at uh, Aaron Taylor Johnson, when you look at Willem Dafoe, when you have Nicholas Hoult, Ralph Ineson, and Bill Skarsgård, we're going to talk about, because he's doing a lot here with less screen time. But she did the job. She was good. I am now more confident in her abilities. And Bill Skarsgård, wow, just wow. Like, first off, the look of his character, the reveal over time of his character during the movie, and the shadows that are used, the hiding of his face, the reveals only when necessary, the violence shown only when necessary. Kind of reminds me of like Tarantino a little bit, actually, where it's like you can assume the terrible things he's doing to this person, and then they'll only show you the truly awful things at the right time. They're not going to overexpose, right, this monster. I think that was well done by Eggers. And the voice and the hauntingness of Count Orlok, my God, like that was something else. And to see like what his motives were, and it might be different from a regular Dracula movie or a vampire movie you typically see, once again making it more of like an erotic horror movie. I think the look and the acting was incredible. This is Bill Skarsgård's best role. It's like this and Pennywise. I think it's 1 and 2, but I think he was truly revolting and disgusting, but somehow like is still trying to allure or seduce Lily Rose Depp in this movie. I think he was probably the second best performer, and I just want him to keep doing these like monster horror character actor type of roles, because this is where he thrives more so than other ones.
Yeah, he was amazing in this. Like the voice that he
Oh,
created for
good.
this was impressive. Yeah, it's almost scary how he thought to do this. You know,
Mhm.
when you do the research and him like going into character, like how he was able to come up with this is kind of nuts, right? But it also goes to his prior experience playing monsters, and also is just talent, right? And it's just wow, this guy just knows how to play villainous, messed up monsters. He does. But that's why I kind of want like Silver Lily Rose Depp, change it up now. Change it up. That's what I want to see, because Skarsgård, I liked him in John Wick 4. I didn't see The Crow, but heard it's terrible. But I want to see him mix it up, and mix it up so I could actually see him, not just prosthetics, right? Because if you think about this performance, it's really just him in the voice, multiple different languages, and he's lurking, right? It's not much you're able to see, like right? Because it's all prosthetics, it's all makeup. It's this suit that he's wearing, and
It
he's
did have like the hair comb over that was like his looked like his hair. Did you notice that?
yeah, and the stash has been talked about a lot, right? And I know Eggers talked about, oh, but like in the mid 19th century, Transylvania, like men would be having those type of stashes. So whatever, I trust and Eggers, we trust with the research, right? But my key takeaway with his character is that, again, my limited vampire watching and knowledge, but a lot of vampire movies like that I mentioned earlier, they aren't as repulsive as this vampire. Right.
Disgusting.
This one, like the rats in this movie, was kind of rat-like, and also just deformed, and not like you talk about how this is an erotic horror and like he's seducing, right? And that's similar throughout almost all vampire movies, right?
Yeah.
Just specifically Count Orlok. But all the movies try to make him look at least like a human, right? Except just paler, for obvious reasons.
And shark
This
teeth.
one's like, no, this guy's a rat. This guy is deformed. He is ugly. It reminded me of The Substance, to be honest.
Go, good call. Yeah.
It was just like, holy crap, but this guy's seducing Lily Rose Depp. So that's where I thought this worked really well and was super effective by Eggers. And like hats off to you. And that was another like for me, like a really good, like kind of again with the plague, the rats, and then synonymous with Count Orlok himself. That and especially and like on screen, really good by Eggers there.
You know what I would like to see, and he's so good at like these horror type of settings, characters that he's playing, prosthetics that he's wearing. I mean, he could be Clayface for the DCU. I think that could be something he could do. He can craft his own voice for it. I know it's going to be a lot of like VFX happening, but a guy who's played Pennywise, he's done Count Orlok and Nosferatu. I think if he wanted to be in a more commercial movie after this, I know he's already done it, which obviously was a box office smash. If he wanted to do Clayface with Mike Flanagan, I think that'd actually be a good fit.
I think you're right.
I think that'd be good. Then the rest of this cast here, Nicholas Hoult, just scared out of his mind the entire movie, just absolutely going through it. He was acting. One of my favorite sequences of the movie, if not my favorite, is him and Count Orlok in the castle, where Nicholas Hoult goes to see him, right, in his estate for the first time to deliver some papers, and he does not know that he's signing over basically his wife to Count Orlok. So when he goes to that castle, and I saw so many great memes. It's the SpongeBob scared out of his mind in the dark like hallway meme. That's what Nicholas Hoult was going through all throughout that 20-minute sequence. And the one-on-one, the scariness, the locked doors, the trap, like being trapped inside a castle. I think that scene and the way they hid Count Orlok, the way he would stand in a corner, the shadows on his face, and then when he would sit across from him, the candle in front of him, but you still can't see his face. And then the final reveal, like in the tomb, when he opens it up and he sees Count Orlok, that whole sequence, I'm like, this is like Robert Eggers' atmosphere he creates, and use of shadow and light, and just an eeriness that really had me scared. The most scared I was during the movie was him in that castle, because you knew that Nicholas Holt's character wasn't going to be the same after that. But I think that was where the technicals really showed, and the getting to know Count Orlok, right, just by his voice, the performance just by his voice from Bill Skarsgård. I think that was my favorite sequence. And I thought Nicholas Hoult, honestly, is like, if I was doing superlatives, I would say he's kind of like the unsung hero of this movie. I think he's pretty good in this movie. Like Lily Rose Depp is carrying this thing for the most part. She's doing all the emotion. She's bringing all the sex, aside from maybe a couple scenes. And then you have Count Orlok with Bill Skarsgård, who's doing like the craziest like monster performance we've seen since The Substance. And then you have Nicholas Hoult like acting his dick off and being scared out of his mind, and kind of just like a normal human being that is just scared of a vampire. I think those are the core three performances.
He's like the grunt guy in this. He's kind of like the bitch a little bit. Like you kind of have to do the dirty work, Nicholas Hoult.
He's facing the most, and he's trying to,
he's like the unfortunately, somebody has to be that guy to kind of do the jobs that you don't want to do. Someone has to be the janitor, and that's Nicholas Hoult in this movie, right? He has to go like take on or see Count Orlok, and then his wife is getting seduced by Count Orlok, and then his wife gets killed.
He's a cuck. He's a cuck to
that's the word.
He's a cuck to Count Orlok, which sucks. He's got a lot to compete with, I guess, according to what's her face, Lily Rose Depp's character.
Yeah, and I think also going back to what you were saying, and I wanted to call this out, so I'm glad you mentioned it. Easily the most scared I was during this movie was in the castle.
Yeah,
by far.
Like, Damon and Harrenhal shit.
So before the castle, he's in that little village outside of the castle, and they're all telling him, don't go to the castle. Like, don't do that. And then he has the dream, quote unquote dream. And, obviously he goes to the castle, right? But then when he gets there, he gets the carriage, right? But it's a ghost carriage. No one's actually driving it, but he still gets in it. Crazy.
Well, I think he got possessed the night before. So it's like he's already been like, his body's been taken advantage of. Like he's being told, like basically told what to do without like literally being told what to do. Okay. I think he's cursed.
Yeah, but I would just say from like a scary type. Like this did a great job, like in that scene or like the next 20 minutes. Like this was like a great intro or like warming you up, a little appetizer for what's about to happen. And then when you get to the castle, the doors open up magically on their own. And then finally, like you meet Count Orlok right away, right? Because obviously, like Knock or Renfield's type of character here isn't at that castle, right? It's that he's back in Germany, right? So it's literally just Count Orlok. So you meet him right away. So it's like holy crap! But it's darker there. You can't really see his face. Eggers is like telling you you're gonna have to wait for it, buddy. Like you said, only when necessary, right? He's saving it, right? He's edging you a little bit here. And it's so good, just like the promo of this movie, hiding Nosferatu, hiding the monster until like a couple weeks ago when you finally got a still, right? Throughout the trailer, you do not get it. You just get the famous shadow of Nosferatu. So this movie, again, just this whole first act was saying like preparing you for what's to come. And then obviously what I'm trying to say is that I did a great job trying to giving you the background and then setting you up for what's then to come in the next hour, hour and a half.
It's amazing what he does with the shadows here because you are with Count Orlok for like 20 minutes and you don't see his face. Like you are with him. He's standing. Like if there is a staircase, he is on the side of the staircase to make sure there's no light on him. Right. It's all intentional. Like it's a lot of like positioning of where Count Orlok is standing. And when you do finally see him, it's another jump scare. Like the first 2 times you see his face, it's him jumping at you, at the audience. And you're like, what the frick am I looking at right now? And it's just, I think wonderfully done. Like I think that's the best part of the movie, just technicals, right? I think like the look and the feel of the movie, and it's not just like in the castle. I think when I knew this movie also it was going to be a banger is when you have Nicholas Holt's character going to Orlok's castle at the beginning, and they go into this like gypsy village and people are playing instruments. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like Eggers in his bag right now. Like he loves this type of stuff. Think about like The Witch and The Northman. Like this is the type of setting where it's like, yeah, I've done this 3 or 4 times. I know exactly what we're doing here. We're going to kind of have to lull the audience. We're going to have them feel like the outsider entering this new community, right? Just like Nicholas Holt is this guy from the city going out to the gypsies and how he's not welcome there, but you're getting to know like the rituals. You're hearing different things. You got like the garlic and the fire, the repellent and all this stuff for the vampires. That's where I was like, okay, so we can have like Victorian 1830s Europe going on in a city. We can have like a gypsy village and we can get a one-on-one horror story in a castle. All three, I think, were so effective in like their own way. But that's where I think it's just the feel of his movies are just so distinct.
Well, right when the village scene happened, it's like, oh, we're in a Robert Eggers movie. That
Yeah.
was the first time it's like, oh, this is Eggers. This is Eggers. And that's probably like his favorite thing to do. Like, hey, we're getting weird here, right? We're getting weird. We're doing Witch. We're doing the Northman. And now we're doing Nosferatu, but not even with Count Orlok, right? It's a random village in the woods for 10 minutes.
Like ritual shit. Like when they start doing ritual stuff, I'm just like, okay, this is like the weird stuff you get in an Eggers movie. You
We
just
got
gotta
a
roll
naked
with it.
woman on a horse, and then we got another guy opening up graves and putting metal spikes through them. Like it's like, oh my god.
We're getting freaky. That's all we're doing. We're just getting freaky. But I think it was excellently done. Um, where else do we want to go here, Ricky Flex? How scary did you think this movie was? How like if we talk about the scene in the castle, we're kind of crapping our pants. But what other scenes kind of like got you?
The castle one, like the castle, you felt on edge, right? And it was very effective, right? So I was like scared, but I wasn't like, oh, I was just more like, oh wow, like what's gonna happen, like right. But I'll say the one thing that wasn't scary was when he in the castle when Nicholas Holt's trying to leave, but then he finds the what do you call it, the like Count Orlok in his box.
The
What's it?
tomb.
Yeah, yeah. And he opens it. It's like, no crap. He's not gonna die here. Like he's gonna stop him. That was like I thought the most obvious one, so I wasn't scared at that at all. But saying that at the ship, when the guy goes downstairs to go to see the
Oh,
box, right? And you see Count Orlok's back, right? The deformed substance like back. You're like, all right, well, he's gonna kill this guy. Be prepared for a jump scare. The guy opens up the box. It's all the rats, right? And it's like, all right, here comes Count Orlok. I'm like waiting for it. But even with that, I still did a little jump. That's when you know, like, even when something's coming and you know it and you still get got, it's like, that was really good. So that was one where I was like, I know it's coming, but I still got got.
And you know that scene when they go back to Count Orlok and him behind the person, and then it does the iconic vampire biting on the neck. You only get that like twice in this movie. I like how they didn't just it wasn't just Count Orlok on a spree. It's like the plague that he brings, and also we're just like the horror of him. You don't have to like the horror of him, you don't have to show it all the time. Just like the look of him, Nicholas Holt, even before you know he's scary as shit, and Nicholas Holt is looking at his face and we don't get to see it. It's like the irony of it all. It's like we know this guy's terrifying, right? But what I think works with the camera so well in this, what it'll do, it'll circle like a panoramic type of shot. It'll start, it'll go past the person, it'll come all the way around, and then you know when it comes back that second time, you anticipate the monster's going to be there. And sometimes Eggers gave it to you, other times he didn't. So that's how he kept you on your toes. So, like, for example, Lily Rose Depp. Oh, no, it was Aaron Taylor John, Emma Corrin's character. There was one where a camera was slowly panning to her. If she's like alone in the house, it feels like she's in the hallway after she tucks her kids away. The camera goes right past her and it goes slowly. You get some eerie music and it comes all the way back around. And you have a tapping of the shoulder. And we think it's Count Orlok because he visited her the night before. And it's Lily Rose Depp looking to sleep with her in the bed. So I'm just like, damn, like that type of thing where the panoramic coming back, what you usually see, I'm not going to give it to you here, right? You'll have to now like second guess if it's going to come again. It's like that type of stuff with the cameras and the light. It's great. I thought it was so good.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of this movie, like Count Orlok in the castle, or just like obviously run horse carriages, right? A lot of things are slow, but then right when you get the jump scare, it's quick, right? And then you can feel it in like with the tone of the attack or whatnot through the music and through the actual action. It picks up, right? The speed just picks up. But with that circle motion that you're saying, it's really slow, and again, it's just building up the tension, right? And then it just
It's like
boom.
literally winding it up.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's how you get the audience on a string, and that's why Eggers is one of the goats. I did want to say, I like performance wise, we talked about the ones that we really liked. Aaron Taylor Johnson, I felt like he was in a different movie. I feel like he was like really almost having too much fun in this movie, compared to the other characters when you compare him to like Holt and how he's pretty much crapping his pants the entire time and being cucked by Count Orlok. Like Aaron Taylor Johnson, I think is heavy on the accent. I think he likes wearing like the 1830s garb. He likes being in a period piece, and it seems like he likes not having to shoulder the entire movie, but kind of splash on the screen whenever. But I thought he was a little bit, I guess, like out of place. It kind of felt like in this movie. And then I'll just throw in another one here before I throw it to you. Willem Dafoe. I love Willem Dafoe, and I think he was good in this movie. But he's all like explaining Count Orlok. Like he is all about just exposition, which I think is like we can do better with Willem Dafoe.
That's like my big problem with this movie, or like the one of, if not the only problem I have that's kind of major, is that there's a lot of like explaining and exposition. It's either through Willem Dafoe or Lily Rose Depp and trying to explain the origins of her swear or her whatever, her loyalty to Count Orlok, or how she got in this mess. Like there's a lot of explaining. And I'm just like, holy crap. Like this should be a simple freaking movie. There's a lot of explaining and it's pissing me off a little bit here.
Yeah.
Um, so that's that. But going back to Aaron Taylor Johnson, you know what? I'll loop in Emma Corrin as well. I agree with you on Aaron Taylor Johnson saying like every time he's on the screen, I'm like, this guy just loves wearing a shirt and tie, and
Having
he
too much
loves
fun.
the garb and loves being a rich guy. Like, totally got that. But at the same time, I thought he was fine, and same with Emma Corrin because I was like kind of in their camp. I'm like, that's what I would be. Not exactly like the richness, but like I would be reacting the same way as them. And also, like, you're in my house.
I
So
would have
like
I
I
would have
kind of
kicked her
got
out. I would have kicked her out a lot earlier, to be
it.
honest.
So like I think I was like, yeah, I think this performance is fine. I think, yes, maybe it's a little weird because you have Nicholas Holt, like, who goes to Transylvania. He was normal, and now he's possessed slash not normal anymore. Lily Rose Depp, who's a freaking weirdo. Willem Dafoe is a conspiracy theorist. You have the doctor who's going full conspiracy theorist. So you're getting all these weirdos around you, it's like you're gonna be in a different movie. So I'm kind of giving him a pass for this one, but I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah, if I were him in this movie, I would have kicked her out immediately as she started seizing and starting to call to Count Orlok and moan for Count Orlok. Get her out of my house. Get her out of my house. I have kids. Get her out.
Yeah, right.
Right?
I was thinking about that the entire time. Like these kids, how are they in this house and they're hearing all this and like for months, not weeks, months, and these kids are normal still, or they're not saying, "Can what's this weirdo doing in our house?" Still,
Yeah, just so weird to me. It was weird. Willem Dafoe, like I I lived for the moments where he dropped Nosferatu when he would pronounce it with his like lion's mane of hair, just going Nosferatu. Every time he said it twice in the movie. I counted.
every time.
I'm just like, this is why I'm here. This is what Willem Dafoe is bringing. And I think even with an exposition heavy like dialogue he had, still very good. Like I still love Willem Dafoe in this
Great
movie.
actor.
You know, I just think like he shouldn't be the one just like spitting out, like explaining things because like the one thing I liked about this movie, you didn't really have to explain that much. Like it was pretty traditional. We know
Right.
the story, you know, and you know what? You know what I would have liked to see is a little more tropes of vampires. And what I was going to say is that I was hoping that Nicholas Hoult at the end, like he's lucky to survive. It's like, obviously it's a movie to see him fall off that castle and then survive and then be resuscitated pretty much, or his life saved by like these gypsies or not. No, they're like, missionaries or like Christian.
Yeah, the Saints or
Yeah. I think it's like, just like,
nuns.
nuns. So, I would have loved if he took what he learned from the gypsies and then went to take on Count Orlok with
I like this.
with like garlic. Like they made it's not like Robert Eggers doesn't seem like a guy who just throw in Easter eggs. And that's what they kind of did in the ritual scene where it's like, oh, they have the garlic, there's the garlic, you know. But I would like it if like you have a guy who's born from city life who doesn't know about these gypsies and he's saved by these nuns and then he takes what he's learned from these gypsies in order to like basically save his wife and save the city and take down Count Orlok, right? I would love if he like had some garlic with him. I would have loved just a little bit more of the tropes of vampire movies, you know?
Yeah, and he did change some tropes, right? We already talked about the neck thing. It was usually out of the
Yeah.
chest, right? But so like that one scene where he did go out of the neck in the ship, he ended up going back to the chest, right? And there's something with the folklore there that Eggers was talking about, how it's more practical. I'm like, okay, yeah, but we're still talking about vampires, but whatever. But that's why we love them, right?
They
The
don't
metal.
turn to vampires either after they get bitten. I was anticipating that. I was waiting, you know, like a vampire bites
Yeah,
somebody, it sucks their blood, they become a vampire. Like that doesn't exist in this movie.
yeah, I wasn't expecting that though.
I was kind of expecting it for Nicholas Hoult when he made it all the way back and trekked. I thought like, okay, he's going to become a vampire now. Even when Emma Corrin's character, we'll go spoilers now. All right, let's go spoilers now. Okay,
Spoilers.
then spoilers now. When Emma Corrin's character dies, right? And then you have Aaron Taylor Johnson going to see his wife after, and then he opens up her, like he goes into the tomb, right? Opens up her coffin. That's the word we're looking for. Coffin, not tomb.
Coffin. That is the word.
But he opens the coffin and then he rubs his face on her so he gets the plague. And I don't understand all like the intricacies of the plague, by the way, either. I don't really get that.
Rats.
But I thought she was gonna bite him. Like I was like, she's gonna turn into a vampire and she's gonna bite him. And then he's gonna turn into a vampire too. But I'm like, oh, it's not that type of movie. That's like a Dracula thing, I guess, and not Nosferatu or Count Orlok. I didn't know if that was a regular thing with vampires. I don't know enough about the lore.
Yeah, I think the Nosferatu story isn't like that. But that's going with the tropes, right? One trope I was really looking forward to, and maybe I just missed it, but I was really paying attention to it, was the mirrors. Because you know how like they can't go like right? Isn't it vampires? Like every time they go in front of a mirror, like they're
Well,
invisible.
sun reflecting and sun hitting them. That's why. That's
Right,
what I
but even
thought.
at night, like even with a mirror, is that not right?
Well, I think isn't it when they go into a mirror they don't see their reflections?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, every time Count Orlok was on the screen, I was just like, I was looking around looking for a mirror because I was like, I wouldn't be like point out like there it is, like there's like you can't see them. But I don't know, I missed it. There probably had to be one because I saw mirrors in multiple scenes, like at the end with Willem Dafoe looking out at the sun, and you could see his face through the mirror. I'm like, God, did I miss it? Like Nosferatu go in front of that mirror and I just missed it. Like, what the hell? So that's like one trope. Um, God, what else? The metal spike, right? That's different. It used to be wooden and like stabbing the vampire so it stays in the ground, the cold metal spike through the ground. So they stay there. I thought that was a good like Eggers new trope. But yeah, like it's nice that they mentioned garlic, but I didn't think about that. I would have liked it if maybe Holt, again, I know it's a trap, but maybe just like add a little bit more like obviously this might not be a trap, right? Where he can learn some stuff from the gypsies or from the nuns. So you have more of a chance against this guy who Willem Dafoe constantly says you have no chance at, but you're still gonna. And then you wait, and then obviously you're looking for Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, and then the night comes, so it's like obviously you're not gonna freaking get him, right? So I was like, this is so unbelievable how Nicholas Holt's character is still gonna try to fight Count Orlok when he's unstoppable at night, and now it's turned to night. You know what I'm saying?
I'm like, what's the plan other than trying burning him? You know, like I don't know if that was explained. Maybe it was explained in the exposition with Willem Dafoe, but basically they were just trying to like try and catch him before like the light came on, and then he had to go away again, and then try and burn him, like just like they burned the plague and they burned the rats and everything. So yeah, I just would have liked it like Easter eggs or something where it's like, oh, look at that. But Robert Eggers doesn't seem like a, ooh, look at this shiny thing type of like he's a guy who does care about the story. You know, I feel like that would just be good implementation. Where else do we want to go, Ricky Flex? As we go down, other strengths or flaws that we had here. What do you have before we hit scores?
I also just want to mention Ralph Ennison, the doctor here.
A lot of screen time, like
A lot of screen
unexpected
time.
amount of screen time.
And he's our Galactus, so I was watching out for that. Yeah, he has the voice like we talked about, I think, for a major villain, specifically in the MCU. So, yeah, that's honestly every time he's on the screen, that's what I was thinking about. But he's a Robert Eggers guy. Willem Dafoe and him, I think, are the two guys that are in at least 3 Eggers movies, right? Because he only has 4 full screen movies. So, yeah, like I was being like, oh, this is an Eggers guy, and he's our Galactus. And that was in the back of my mind the whole movie.
I do think it was kind of hard for me to understand exactly what he was saying at times.
Well, I will say Skarsgård at times was hard because of the voice.
I think Innocent was even tougher because he is, I don't know, he's like monotone, very deep voice, and he's using language that we don't typically hear. So I will lose a word every once in a while. That's what I'll say.
I was thinking it would be nice to watch this with closed captioning at times, but it wasn't like a Tenet in IMAX.
Yeah, but like I don't want captions on an Eggers movie because it takes away from you. You want to see the full screen when you're watching a Robert Eggers movie. Before we get to scores, I know what I want to talk about. Let's talk about some sex here. Let's talk about the sex scenes. The scene that is just, this is where I think Holt's performance, like he finally did something a little bit different, and he wasn't like Mr. Nice Guy and Mr. Scared Guy the entire movie. The scene where he forces himself on Lily Rose Depp, and Lily Rose Depp is saying that Count Orlok gives her better pleasure than he does. I was like, oh my God. Like I now like, this is just so messed up because now he's going to have sex with this cursed woman, this possessed woman. And all she can think about is Count Orlok's hog. It's like literally.
You did that on purpose though.
Yeah.
But Holt to have sex with her, right?
Well, I think she wanted that too. She wanted Count Orlok to see it.
Right.
You know, like she wanted to see it. And then you have that scene. And you're like, yes, she loves Nicholas Holt's character, but the ultimate trap that's set, it's literally Lily Rose Depp's character saying, I'm taking one for the team. That's literally what she's doing. I'm taking Count Orlok's for the team to save us from the plague, to save my loved ones and whatever. I know I'm going to die, right? It's going to give us a really uncomfortable sex scene to look at, but this is how we're going to draw him to the castle and have the light shine on him. This is not the ending I anticipated when I saw that Robert Eggers was going to be directing Nosferatu. But with how erotic and like sexual, like the undertones and overtones that the movie had, it made sense that that's the way they trapped him. You know, it's so weird to think about. And maybe it didn't pack enough punch for other people that maybe wanted something that was a little more high concept or whatever, but in terms of like the movie that seemed fairly simple, I was okay with this ending. I liked it. Not
Yeah,
like to watch it, but you know what I mean.
yes, I knew what you meant, and I thought it was a good ending, and it made sense. It was obviously a little effed, right? It screwed up, and for good reason, but I think it matches. It matches well with the movie, and I have issues with the trap, like we just talked about, and how they went through with it, even though it was just so unbelievable. But at the same time, I like the Lily Rose Depp element of it, where it's like, yeah, you got to set up a trap so I can sacrifice myself and get rid of this guy who literally brought the plague over,
Well, it was
right?
only two-person plan. It was basically her and
Yeah,
Willem Dafoe.
right. So, yeah, like overall, I like the overall ending.
And before we get to scores too, the apprentice or the assistant to Count Orlok, absolutely disgusting character. Like he's almost close to how bad Count Orlok was when he's eating like the live animals, live birds. He
Ugh.
murdered the sheep and he murdered the three goats and then ate them. Like that guy was absolutely revolting, and the guy was close to. He obviously was human form. I just want to shout that guy out because that guy brought, and you saw it in the trailer, him biting the live bird like inside the prison there. That guy was scared every time he took the screen. He was so unpredictable, and you knew he was going to do something absolutely egregious every time he was on there. So shout out to that guy.
Yeah, when I saw him, I was like, "Oh, Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation, MI6 head or whatever,
Mm.
MI5 head." But yeah, that was messed up. I forget his name, but he's obviously he's a recognizable guy, similar to Ralph Ineson, but like I forget his name. But good actor.